Hey everyone, Barry's here. So, after last time's rather intense look at the Age of Wrath, I figured we'd take a look at something a little bit more closer to the games and less so the books. Escalation is a standout game mode within the Cybertron games, allowing players to team up alongside each other and fight against waves of enemies. Now I'm sure that most of you who aren't absolute cave dwellers who feast off dead rats and cave moss have played the Escalation mode in Fall of Cybertron at some point in time, but I would hazard a guess that none of you thought very hard about the arenas you fight in, and the characters you play as. But of course, I did. Our first map that we find ourselves within is Ignition, a small dark arena with a 3-lane map outline. The character roster for this map consists of Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Ratchet, and Warpath. Taking a look around the map, we can see that it bears a striking resemblance to the very same Gladiator arena that Megatron took control back from Starscream within. The dark towers looming high above tells us that we're somewhere within Canon. However, the golden statue of Starscream high above the map tells us that whenever this game of Escalation is being played, it's certainly sometime during Starscream's reign of leadership. But, if this is all happening before Megatron's revival, then why are the Autobots here? Well, it is because of Starscream's leadership that the Autobots are within Kanon's walls. You see, Starscream's leadership is about as effective as a monkey with a typewriter, and Optimus likely knew this. Without Megatron in the picture, the Decepticons were at a significant tactical disadvantage, and seeing as how the leadership was currently being changed around, resulting in even more internal chaos, Optimus likely saw this as an excellent chance to go in and free as many Autobot prisoners as he could, with the 4 Autobots fending off waves of Decepticons within the arena to give the prisoners time to escape. This entire story here makes some sense, with all the characters being free at the relative story moments, and luckily this map's lore is a lot more plausible than the next ones. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion is a beautiful game, a simple arena complete with some beautiful verticality to accompany the 2 flyers that are playable on the map. Speaking of which, the cast of Elder Scrolls NPCs consists of Megatron, Shockwave, Soundwave, and Starscream. Looking around this gold-plated map, we see that it bears similarity to the Ark from the first and last levels of the campaign. And if we look out the windows of this location, it is all but confirmed due to seeing Cybertron outside of the ship. Now, given the information that we have, this should be a simple open and shut case. The Decepticons are boarding the Ark, players must cause as much damage as possible. There are 2 problems with that idea. 2 flying problems. Both Starscream and Shockwave were never on the Ark. Shockwave had his own tower fall on top of him after Grimlock bit his arm off, and Starscream was somewhere near that tower by the time that the Ark launched. So then, this can't be the Ark, and it has to be a different ship. What is most plausible is that this ship is a smaller transport vessel, carrying elite Autobot commanders off of the planet upon Optimus's orders, with the Decepticons boarding and taking all of the information that they can get. Even then though, Megatron is sporting his design near the end of the game, which really makes me call into question the whole timeline here. It's still possible that this is all canon, but I honestly doubt it. Okay, now we get to move on to the proper written lore for some of these maps. Ancients is a beautiful map, an oddly shaped arena featuring wide open spaces and a healthy amount of verticality. Based off the skybox and frankly all the junk lying around, it's easy to see that this map is located somewhere within the Sea of Rust. I actually know that this takes place near the end of Fall of Cybertron, when an Autobot research outpost, deep within the Sea of Rust, operated by Wheeljack and Perceptor, sends out a distress beacon to Iacon, to which Jazz and Cliffjumper respond, aiding the 2 scientists in fending off the newly awakened Insecticons, while they all wait for an evacuation. Once Perceptor and Wheeljack are brought back, they are kept safe within Iacon to presumably board the Ark. This is the final map within Fall of Cybertron's Escalation mode, and what a treat this one is. Downfall is easily the most open map in the game, with a large portion of it being open space that you can really have fun with and drive around in. Looking around, we can see that this is actually taking place within Iacon, but not the Iacon from Fall of Cybertron's campaign. What's interesting is that this is Iacon from the Lore For Cybertron campaign, before its destruction by Trypticon crashing into it. What's even more interesting is the cast that we play as this Escalation map actually answers the question of where most of the Combaticons were during War for Cybertron. We know that Brawl is currently on track to getting to Zeta Prime, but he and his Combaticons are pinned down when they find Quake, a hot-headed Decepticon who has managed to draw quite a crowd of Autobots to their location. Left with no choice but to fight, the Combaticons join Quake in dispatching the Autobots as quickly as they can before continuing on to finding Zeta Prime. This map is my all-time favorite Escalation map. It's the only one that we get to play in a War for Cybertron environment in Fall of Cybertron, and that's just so cool to me. Especially seeing as how it's basically a scrapped Combaticon mission from War for Cybertron, and it's finally made playable. So that has been all of the lore from the Escalation maps. Unfortunately, most of this isn't written down anywhere, but seeing as how I've been reading a lot into these games and I was able to use my own knowledge of the timelines and events to create some rough lore for these maps, this one has been super fun to make. And by the way, thank you to everyone who is still playing Fall of Cybertron Escalation in 2024. You guys are truly awesome to hang out with, and I play this game as much as I can nowadays. Thank you all for watching this video. Till all are one.